Whether you're investing here or you're thinking of moving back or you're currently living here, what happens in the Greenbelt is, of course, a huge deciding factor on many levels. So, of course, Simon, maybe what you can do is talk to us a little bit about the Greenbelt. What does it mean?
Well, first of all, a lot of people have no idea what we're talking about when we say the Greenbelt. I mean, it's legislation that came in, I guess, 9 years ago now, and it was one that was designed to maintain a certain level of conservation around the GTA, but it had some very dramatic effects. It had effect on the supply of housing. It had effect, because people drive north of the cottage and they see miles and miles and miles of cows and green, and they, it's easy to think, well, we have lots of land. What's going on? Why is there such a challenge? But what they don't realize is there's this big green swath right around the GTA that's literally created a real estate island. We have the Greenbelt to the north, west, and east. We have the Lake Ontario to the south. So what's happening in the GTA?
I like it. You call it the Manhattan effect.
It's the Manhattan effect. It really, really is. The development has gone skybound, and intensification is the word of the day.
All right. Now that you've explained what it is,
let's let the expert pipe in.
All right.
On this
well,
one.
we have here with us, of course, Paul Golini. He's the Executive Vice President of Empire Communities, and you can talk about this firsthand. So, Paul, welcome to the program.
Hi, Erin. How are you?
Very well, thank you. All right. Well, why don't we first talk about Empire Communities? Tell us a little bit more about the company and more about the developments you guys are involved in.
Well, we're a developer builder with roots in southwest Ontario, where we started planning and building master planned communities in the Dundas-Hamilton area over 20 years ago. And now we've expanded to the GTA. We've been in the GTA for as well 20 years with some condo developments as well. So we're sort of a developer that you don't see a lot of, where we're building in multiple geographies, multi-product, both townhomes, singles, as well as high-rise condominium projects across the GTA as well as throughout southwestern Ontario.
So you really do, focus on where there's a need. And you're right, some developers stay in a specific area and that's their niche. But you guys are more than happy to venture out to look where there's a need and to fill that need as well.
They say that hindsight is 20/20, and I guess we had that 20/20 hindsight back 20 years ago when we started making investments in these large tracts of land in southwestern Ontario, which coincided quite well when the Greenbelt legislation came into play, where we were actually ready to develop these large communities that were not captured by the Greenbelt. And so we set ourselves up well for the growth of our company, and for what we're seeing now is this outbound effect of people moving out to the
drive till you qualify.
That's we have to give George Karras credit for that one, because that's a great term. Drive till you qualify. But Simon gave a great example of what the Greenbelt is, and you're right. A lot of people just don't even think about it, or may not even realize. But do you know, Paul, in terms of the size of that Greenbelt that we're talking about, roughly what that is?
Absolutely, it's approximately 1.8 million acres. Thereabouts 750 hectares, and it's a large swath of land, as Simon mentioned, and it covers everything from the Niagara Escarpment all the way to the Oak Ridges Moraine. And it made sense back in 2005 when it became legislation. It was important to conserve certain lands. A lot of our water comes from these aquifers that are protected by the Greenbelt, and but it's also important to realize that the Greenbelt came together with we call it a sister legislation, which was the growth plan.
Let's just focus on the opportunities. Let's start there in the positive. So what are the opportunities in terms of the Greenbelt for, whether it be consumers, builders, however you want to define it, but what are the opportunities by having this Greenbelt legislation?
Well, the Greenbelt really should define the boundaries of where growth should not happen and where it should happen. And it's there to create some clarity when it comes to the development industry trying to make decisions around buying land and where to develop and where to obviously accommodate this great growth that the greater Golden Horseshoe is seeing and will see over the next 20 years. So it's really to provide a guide for growth in the province.
All right. Simon, what do you think in terms of opportunities with the Greenbelt?
Well, it's certainly impacted supply. So in some areas, both to the left and the right of the Greenbelt, then values went up a little bit, of course. But we're seeing some communities on the outskirts that are close to the Greenbelt and need room to grow. It's kind of like the belt on my waist when I have too much pasta. I got to let it out a little bit, and they've got to expand a little bit in certain areas. So I think there's opportunities there, but it has led to, as we talked about earlier, the Manhattan effect. We're seeing, as Empire Developments is doing condos now. You're doing them in the core, you're doing them in Oakville, you're doing them in the waterfront.
So we're seeing going upwards in the sky in areas we may not have ever thought of. So it has changed the landscape substantially.
So that's the secondary opportunities.
Okay. What are the challenges because of this Greenbelt?
Well, it's sort of the two sides of the same coin. All of a sudden now there's limitations. We've got expansion in a certain area. We've got a demand. And what we're seeing is pricing in some areas actually coming out of the range of some first-time buyers because the supply is ever shrinking. And as the supply ever shrinking with, at the same time, a growing demand with the population growth we're seeing in the GTA, some 100,000 people every year, which is 40,000 new households that require housing. And whether they're renting or they're buying, they're driving demand.
So, Paul, I think that Simon brought up a great point. As from a builder's point of view, the first-time home buyer, they used to be able to get a home. But in some cases, the closer you want to be downtown to the GTA, they want to be maybe close to where they work, they're looking at a condo.
Oh, for sure. It's really the law of supply and demand. And when you take that many acres out of the equation, you have less supply, you have less land, and it's a natural that prices for land are going to go up, and they go up closer to the urban center. So obviously within the GTA, we've seen what new home prices have done. Obviously it has an effect on resale numbers as well. And it affects affordability. So you're seeing opportunities for companies like ours at Empire Communities where we're developing outside. We're sort of hopscotching over the Greenbelt and going into communities in Hamilton and Kitchener-Waterloo as well as Niagara, where we're finding people saying, I'm willing to drive a little bit more to hit that affordability target. And that's really what the Greenbelt has done. But another term that I've heard is that the Greenbelt has created a legislative mountain range. Same way, you have Vancouver that has the mountain range where it's forced, development within a certain space. It's done the same thing. It's our legislative mountain range where it's really telling us this is the only place you can develop. And of course, if you can't go out, you have to go up. And for that reason, you're seeing the condo market in the GTA grow as it is.
And I think you brought up a great point. It also has built communities that, prior to this legislation, wouldn't have seen the growth. I'm going to just cite Barrie as an example. That's a great one. Look how that's changed just over the last 20 years. It's just unbelievable. All right. So what would you like to see, Paul, in terms of a builder's perspective? What would you like to see in terms of this Greenbelt plan? Because it's up for review, as Simon said, in the next year or so. What are you hoping for?
Well, it's coming up for review in 2015. And all we're asking is that the government, the province, obviously, work with all the stakeholders, not only the developers, but obviously everyone who has a stake and has a say in terms of growth, future growth of the province. And we're looking for clarity. We're looking for a fair process as we review the Greenbelt. That's all we can ask for. And just a quick point in terms of that belt next to the Greenbelt, we call that the White Belt. And we're looking for some clarity around the White Belt because the White Belt is really what we're designating as the first future growth areas as we enlarge our urban centers.
But who gets to decide and who's involved in this process?
Well, the province decides. Obviously, they're speaking to the municipalities that control their own growth plans, as well as the development industry, the environmental groups. And then I do believe it goes out for public consultation. So there is a mechanism so that everyone can have a say potentially.
So everybody has a voice, right, Simon?
It's so important for people to understand what's going on with the Greenbelt and the impact that it's going to have on the GTA. So we encourage you to stay tuned. We're going to be watching this and talking to Paul and talking to everybody involved in this and giving you updates as we go along. And if you have any questions about it, commentary, please share it with us. Go to our website, realestatetalkshow.ca. Follow us on Twitter at Real Talk Show. Go to Facebook. Send us smoke signals. Do whatever you got to do. We want your feedback, and we'll disseminate the information right back at you.
Yeah, of course. And you can call our help desk anytime at 416-366-9090. Paul Golini, of course, Executive Vice President from Empire Communities. What a pleasure to have you. And we're going to have you back.
Great. Thank you.